is What is Art? And it's going to talk about artist audience, artist and beauty, art and appearances, art and meaning, and art and objects. These are really important terms. Be sure to add aesthetics to this because it really does happen. The description and a whole page is dedicated to aesthetics here in chapter 2, so it's a good idea to focus on that here. We're really going to get into the difference between representational, abstract, and non-representational, three very different things, and the rest of these terms we'll go over. Okay, so just keeping in mind that the art world that we know today is a recent construct, pretty much post-Renaissance, even a little bit later than that. But this is the idea that we think of Van Gogh or Monet or Gauguin or some French guy in a studio making a painting and tuning in with his inner self and expressing himself. Art is not necessarily always that, and historically, a lot of times it's just been depicting the beliefs of a culture or the colors or other significant things from a culture, okay? It's not just about artists expressing their own particular ideas. So in the past, quite often there'd be a client or a patron, and you're going to work collaboratively in a workshop. Individual artists were not known really until the Roman era, Greek and Roman era. And then there's also outsider folk art, which refers to untrained artists that make art. Okay, we'll get into that also. So in this particular piece, we're looking at a Mughal miniature, and it's a really beautiful piece, but this is done as a group, okay? This is a workshopped piece, meaning there are different artists with different specializations. One artist, if you really notice the style of the hand a little bit, one artist did these figures, right? And another artist did these larger rock forms. You can see stylistically, really, how they're slightly different. And also, somebody else probably did the larger figures and the elephant, like this segment right here. And maybe, we don't know further, but it might have been that someone else was really good at doing the leaves or doing different parts of this, like all this foliage here. Okay, so this was done in a workshop where one person does one thing. Animation is done this way, modern animation, where somebody draws the background, then somebody paints the background, and then the moving figures on the front, perhaps, if say this was a cartoon we were watching, somebody else draws these. So there's a lot of different things that are separated, okay, out into parts and then are done by different individuals. Okay, so we're skipping into outsider folk art here, and we have James Hampton's Throne of the Third Heaven of the Nation's Millennium General Assembly. This guy was a janitor, maintenance guy, and he made this himself. This is made out of cardboard and foil for the most part. There's some other things going on in there, but colored craft paper and some wood and so on. But this is basically just colored tinfoil wrapped around and layered over cardboard. And he worked on this privately, and this was found, it was almost thrown out, but it was found, and now it is in the Smithsonian American Art Museum. And this is something very typical of outsider artists, very obsessive and elaborate with a lot of personal meaning, and stylistically very different, or we could say unique, because this artist is not trained and he's not learning certain styles, for example. He's doing his own thing. Right now, or contemporaneous to him, 1950-64, we would be seeing abstract expressionists. Okay, big blobs of color or Jackson Pollock drip paintings, And here's this guy doing this thing, totally different. All right, another folk artist here, Galen Aiken. Interesting little piece, and you can see like perspective is wonky. This isn't like the roof is a little weird. The windows aren't like there's a big space here and then a tiny space there, and chances are these windows were actually centered. Like this middle window should have lined up with the peak of the roof, and it does not. That kind of thing. And then here she's playing this organ in the front of the house, kind of fanciful. And there's a title here, and there's some curtains, okay? So this is thought up by an outsider artist, and there's some more information about her in the book. Very interesting. But you can see how the style is looser, different, untrained. The painting looks, the actual application of paint looks fairly skilled, but untrained. Okay, so art and beauty here, aesthetics, disinterested contemplation. I'm going to save that for part 2.